Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at probably what will be one of the last unlimited decks for at least a couple of videos, since we've gone through a fair few now, but this is going to be the unlimited Darkfeast bat. It's been modified slightly compared to what it was like, say, a month ago even, that I was mainly using and did some videos on. We've mainly just, changed it from more of an aggro-ish to a much more Darkfeast bat orientation. So really, that's the only big thing that's changed. Ambling Wraiths at 2, Disciples of Lusts have been re-included compared to some other deck variations, Vera of course, things like that. It's not uncommon to go back to decks like this as meta shifts, so it's no surprise this is what is currently floating around, so we're going to get right into it and check it out. So our first game is some blood on blood action.
Time to get started.
Definitely one of the more common matches that are interesting, for me at least. Typically whoever goes first, of course, has the advantage. And in this case I decided to hold on to my Darkfeast bat. Typically I might have considered discarding it in favour of some better cards to go for a very early Flores, but considering we already had Disciple, we already had Flowerbed, I felt it was a safe bet to hold off. And I think that safe bet was pretty well grounded in this situation. Of course, I did take the risk of playing out the early 1-drop, even if it did cost us that. I think it was worth it. And I think it paid off. I mean, Gift of Bloodkin, Snarling Chains into Restless Parish, plus the ping from Bloodfed is going to get us our Florus anyway, and pretty much set us up to win this game at this point. It's very hard for your opponent to usually come back from a negative turn like this, even if this is going to be a pretty decent way to do so. So this is where I had to make a decision. Not a decision I wanted to make. I decided to go for the trade option instead. I could have easily just left it up, but I didn't want to take the risk knowing what they can do with the Blood Moon play. And I think it ended up paying off as far as this went. I mean, quick Evo gives us a 7 plus 1, so 8 damage, taking more than half the health away, leaving just 4 little health to deal with, and a very solid board to do so. Revelations though is pretty soul crushing. At least that did set them to 3, so we only need 1 good draw. That's not it. That's not it either. So the next best bet is to drop the Vera and hope it can at least try and survive this turn. Definitely not the optimal play, but definitely the one that I decided to make. Of course they went for Core and a Happy Pig, which is going to give them another plus 10 health. This is actually more interesting than I expected, considering they were playing a more basically vengeance-focused deck. There was really no way around that. My only real option was to take any advantage I could get. And considering how close we were to Darkfeast bat being ready, it was definitely the right move. So this turn wasn't going to be lethal, basically no matter what I did. But it was definitely going to put them very close, and since they are, of course, running out of Blood Moon next turn, they're still going to be in Vengeance, but it would have been much harder to, of course, come back when you're dealing with a board of 11 damage on its own, not counting hand. And now, coming off that Blood game, we go straight into a Sword matchup. Sword is always a reasonably strong deck, no matter what, nearly. I mean, it had its downtime in rotation, but as far as Unlimited went, Sword always had some kind of variant that was doing okay. Usually it seemed to float mostly around tier 2, but it has jumped into tier 1 fairly regularly. Usually start of expansions, of course, when things are unoptimized, Sword is usually one of the best things to use. No surprise, considering its cards are very simple but effective. They don't tend to be too crazy with their complicated effects. Most of the silver up to gold, bronze up to gold is pretty straightforward, with only the odd outlier of a trickier effect. So we started off very well. Well enough that I was willing to bet it all on this turn and put out as much as I could.
Don't get too carried away.
Magic Marksman, not really an issue. And they left my Vera up, which was an interesting choice. I kind of understand why, but at the same time, that seems like a really bad choice. Although I definitely should have played the Evo on the Vera first before making, of course, that play, since I wouldn't have lost as much health. Not that overall it is going to matter, because we're going to heal that back pretty much immediately next turn no matter what, so it just would have been a little more optimal and would have made that victory much less compelling. So while this video was on the shorter side compared to a lot of the videos I make, usually we have about 7 to 10 minute range, but Blood tends to be one of those decks that you can get out of the way fairly easily. A couple of video showcases usually is all it takes to really show how this deck can function. Overall, it does a fairly decent job at everything that it needs to do. Of course, coming up in a Blood Mirror, usually whoever goes first has the advantage. Sword Mirrors, well, sword battles are a little more difficult too sometimes, but if you can get that rolling action going, like I did in that match, it's very easy to just swing the game. So I'd say overall this deck can easily minimum a 50-50 win rate, but you could probably be looking at an easy 53 to 55 range win rate if you're a competent player with a deck like this. So if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time guys, see ya.